Hi, everyone. Welcome to our weekly webinar. Today, our special guest is Jim Fite from Dallas, Fort Worth, and founder of the Judge Fite Companies. Hey, Jim, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. I'll just make one correction. I'm not the founder. I'm the second generation. My father, Judge Fite, founded our
Second
company.
generation.
My father, Judge Fite, founded our company in 1937.
Okay.
But William, I have some bad news. I have a bad connection. I can't hear you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. Let me see.
I hear you better now. For all those listening out there, we're sorry about this. If you knew what my last 72 hours has been like, you would understand in Texas.
Can you hear me now, Jim?
I can. Yes, sir.
Okay. Beautiful. All right. So thanks for taking over there for me momentarily. I'm sure this isn't your first time. So like I was saying before, could you give us a little background on the Judge Fite Companies and all the different parts of the business that you're in?
Sure. So we are a real estate services company in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, Texas, and we have 23 sales offices. We are in the property management, manage about 1,500 rental properties. And those would be single family townhome condos for people like you and I, William. We also have title insurance, mortgage, property casualty insurance, relocation. So we're involved in pretty much all pieces of the real estate brokerage business to have turnkey services for our clients.
Very cool. And then the other thing I have to ask you is, how have you guys been handling this wacky weather? Which I have family in Houston, and I think for the first time, I have other family in Vermont. It was colder in Houston than it was in Vermont, which I don't think has ever happened before.
Yes, sir. So I'm actually sitting right this minute in my next door neighbor's property at our lake property. My wife and I escaped our Dallas condominium to go to our lake property, thinking we would be a wonderful place to hibernate as we were looking forward to the storms. However, what we didn't realize was our electricity was going to go out day before yesterday at 9 a.m. And so we have been without power for these 2 days now, going on 3. And yesterday, our next door neighbor, who's on a different power system than our house is, invited us over. So we brought some dinner, and they allowed us to stay in one of their bedrooms last night in a warm bed. And it really felt good. I am now in a heated house. If our internet is not stable, I'm literally using our phone rather than a hard wire or anything else. And it's just been interesting. There's about a foot of snow on the ground, and it will be here apparently through Friday.
Wow.
With sub freezing temperatures till then. So wish us luck here in Texas. Really, it's all over Texas.
Yeah. So I want to get to the topic that we're going to cover today about the migration from, mainly the West Coast to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But since this is so current, how has your business adjusted in the last week with, I've gotten bits and pieces of it, but, Texas doesn't deal with snow. So that's challenge enough. And then people are without power and, kind of situation similar to yours. So what have you been doing to support your agents and try to conduct business as usual as best you can?
Well, let's just say that I would hope that COVID and even what we were doing prior to March 15th of 2020 has filtered in through the last week of this unpredictable weather that we've had. So as we entered into the COVID world a year ago or 11 months ago now, we as a company had already been paperless for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, 100% paperless, where our agents can conduct paper business or paperless business, you might say, anywhere in the world as long as they have an internet connection. So that was already done. We also have been involved in some sort of virtual technology like Zoom, what we're on now, for many years, probably 10 plus years. We were on WebEx and then GoToMeeting and then Adobe Connect. And finally, we went to Zoom probably 4 years ago, long before. I wish I'd bought stock in it 4 years ago, William, but I didn't. If I'd known COVID was going to hit, I would have. Anyway, so we have been using Zoom technology for our sales meetings. We call them Let's Talk Real Estate meetings, our training classes, and various other things for a number of years. So when COVID hit and the last week with this weather, we've been able to communicate with each other with, of course, telephone and or Zoom and or show property through this technology and go over contracts with our prospects, our buyers, our sellers, as we negotiate purchases and sales of real property. So I would tell you that we didn't know we were as prepared as we were a year ago, but when COVID hit, we didn't miss a beat, not one single beat. And then on the other hand, as we hit this weather this week, the same thing applies unless we lost power, which my wife and I did. And that meant no internet, we lost power on our laptops. 5 hours later, we didn't have laptops, and 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours later, we didn't have phone service because our batteries went dead. Until our next door neighbor said, come on over here and power up. And so we did that yesterday, and we've been here ever since. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. I know we have at Proppy some clients in Texas, and obviously thinking of them, but just trying to get a cell phone charge seems to be a struggle right now. So can only imagine. On top of trying to close a house.
Yes, sir. Exactly. And of course, what will come after this will be, as people in the other parts of the country have had for years, the broken pipes and, property's ready to close, and then nobody's been in there, and they go in and the pipes are broken. Somebody's got to fix that, or the property's flooded, and all of the insurance claims and all the dominoes start falling. That's one value of being in real estate for 80 some odd years, 84 years now, is we've been through some times where we have had to deal with these kind of things, and we'll deal with them. That's what we do, and we do it well.
Absolutely. So now pivoting back to the topic of our conversation today, which is this migration, mainly from the West Coast. When we had our prep call talking about, Seattle and some of the bigger cities in California, Los Angeles, San Francisco, to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And this was a trend that prior to COVID had already sort of started to take place and then was accelerated. So can you talk to us a bit about what you've seen having such a large presence there and how it's affected your business?
Sure. Well, the good news is it's affected it well in a positive direction for Texas. We have been fortunate until this Sunday to have great weather. We've been fortunate to have a great central time zone. We've been fortunate to have a great airport, and commuting around the world has been very positive for the Dallas-Fort Worth area, as well as other parts of the state of Texas. And of course, not to get political about it, but we've also had a climate of business. And Texas is a business state. It's a business climate. Our leaders in the state historically have been such where we don't have an income tax, personal income tax. We have some tax incentives for companies moving into the state, which are extremely valuable to these companies that are moving from the West Coast or wherever into the state, as well as some local and county governments have some tax incentives built in for these organizations moving into Texas. So, it's just a great business climate. And, what goes along with all those tax incentives and the money part of it are the people, educational system, high tech. 20 years ago, Dallas Fort Worth was not what it is today as far as a diversified economy. We have great sports teams, we have great arts, we have great ways of living your life after work and before work. So you add all that together and it just makes a great climate for people to move and companies to move. And we just want to keep it that way. Fifth generation, and how many years have up our great. We don't.
I think we lost Jim for a second there.
Uh-oh, can you hear me?
He's
That's
back.
1, 2.
You're back.
Okay.
So going back to you said Texas has obviously been a very business-friendly state. Are there any industries or specific companies within the last year or two that have made a big effort to either relocate their headquarters or increase their footprint in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that's had a big effect?
Sure. So I just lost. I just had when you were asking, I was thinking of the company that moved into Las Colinas last year. I'll think of it in a minute, probably. Charles Schwab. Of course, Toyota was the big one about 5 years ago, huge in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Brought in like 5,000 people. And then, of course, all the sub companies that came in or subcontractors that affected that. Charles Schwab moved here. Just lost a big one. I can see their building over in Las Colinas. Of course, we didn't get the Amazon HQ2, but I will also tell you we have some Amazon other facilities moving here and opening up some distribution centers and things like that. Facebook opened up a great big distribution center over at Alliance Airport. And I say distribution center, a tech center over there. Don't know if you've heard, and this isn't public knowledge out there as far as I know, the New York Stock Exchange is actually looking at moving down this way. And we think we have some great facilities that could handle that kind of technology that they need, the bandwidth and so forth that they need to run the quote, Texas Stock Exchange. Would they change their name? I don't know. That'll be kind of be fun thing to watch. And of course, Tesla making their move to Texas, not necessarily Dallas-Fort Worth, but that's a big one on the horizon, and others. I mean, there's just so many. And since COVID hit, kind of interesting, the Dallas Regional Chamber Economic Development Committee, which our company is part of, they have their inquiries from the West Coast have increased some 30+%, even more than they were in 2019. And we had our first inquiry from the state of Oregon, which we've never had an inquiry. If you've ever been to Oregon, why would anybody leave there? It's a beautiful state. But the fact is, their situation out there is such that companies are saying, gee whiz, maybe we ought to look at Dallas-Fort Worth or Texas as an alternative in the future. Pretty exciting.
That's very exciting. And has that only picked up during COVID? Obviously, it started prior, or what's, I guess, sort of been the catalyst in the acceleration of that movement from the West to Dallas-Fort Worth since COVID happened?
Well, I really don't want to get political on your show today. So I'll just leave it at that. It has to do with a business climate versus a non-business climate. It has to do with the quality of life versus, dollars and cents. And we don't have the climate of California. Let's just face it. That's the bad news. I love San Diego as an example where it's between 70 and 75 degrees, 360 days a year with no rain. Well, we're not that, that's for sure. But what we do have is a place where people can come and have a great life with great education systems and live life abundantly. And instead of having a 1,200 square foot or 1,800 square foot house for $1 or $2 or $3 million, you can have for $3 million, you can have a really nice house in the state of Texas with some land around you and some grass you can cut. So just quality of life at the end of the day.
I remember in our prep call a few weeks ago, you mentioned a funny story about people coming in and they have certain expectations of what they can afford. And then, your agents meet with them and it's like, whoa, shoot, for that much money, you can get this. And they're shocked at what they're able to afford relative to where they came from.
Yes, sir. Without a doubt. Our average sale price is $280,000. I think we actually hit a couple of months ago, $301,000 for the median sale price of DFW. Well, for $301,000, you can buy a really nice 2,500 square foot house that was built either maybe not brand new, but somewhere in the 90s or 2000s or 2010 era. All the modern conveniences, great neighborhoods, and great schools. So people like to buy our housing here. I'll just say it that way. They're very pleased when they get here.
And what's the typical profile of a buyer that you've seen coming since COVID? Is it younger, older? What's been the norm?
The answer would be yes.
Or is it a mix?
The answer would be it's across the board. It would be that young person, professional, or someone just moving to get into this hub of jobs and starting out their career here. And they just recognize the economic value and benefit of this particular market. So it'd be the young person, it would be the retired couple, it would be the up and comer going up the ladder. Sorry about the background noise. This is not my home.
That's all right.
It's my neighbor's house and it's going wild over here for a minute. Anyway, tech people moving from the Silicon Valley to here. Why would they do that? Why would they leave the Silicon Valley? Well, they can buy a house. They can live affordably. So that you name it, they're all coming. I mean, there's no age group. There's no socioeconomic, cap or anything else. Had a referral just recently where the gentleman was, recently retired and lives in Seattle. And they were moving to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And in checking in a little bit further, and by the way, they were looking at up to a $12,000 a month mortgage payment. So this is a pretty nice house, right? And he was just virtually getting away from the climate weather-wise, the climate of the Seattle area of what's going on up there. They just didn't want to live in that environment. They wanted a different kind of lifestyle. And so they were moving to Texas.
I don't blame them. Seattle's great, but I can imagine that weather after a while, Dallas starts to look very, very appealing.
We have a place for you too, William, when you're ready. So just want you to know that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I might have to spearhead our Texas expansion on the ground for property. So you'll be the first one to contact.
Thank you.
So you have a property management business as well. Are you seeing people come in looking for rentals in addition to obviously folks that are wanting to buy?
Sure. Yeah, a lot of people are concerned about buying right off the bat. You know, they don't know the market, they don't know the area, they don't know the schools as well. And so a lot of people will come in and rent versus buy. So that's not at all unusual.
And then obviously it's on a case by case basis, but if you get somebody that's, let's say, my profile, mid 30s, maybe they're married, they, have a good job and they say, Jim, I'm moving to Dallas because I'm sick of paying crazy taxes somewhere else and living in a small house. And I want a better quality of life and I can work remotely. What would your advice be to rent, buy, location? What would your advice be to someone like that profile?
Well, let me just say that you're talking to a realtor. So I've only rented a house for 1 year of my entire adult career, and that's from 18 till now, and I'm over 18 now, if you can't tell. So, except I say that 1 year we rented, and then about 9 months we rented another time while a house was being finished. So, I believe in home ownership. I can certainly communicate the value of home ownership. And if a realtor does their job well, they're going to determine your needs. In other words, you, the buyer's needs. They're going to determine, are schools important to you, or is nightlife important to you, or is a church or mosque or synagogue important to you, or what it turns you on about that home. Is it, I want a pool, and why do I want that pool? Do I want it for exercise, or do I want to bring my friends over on a Saturday afternoon and have a pool party? I want to be on a lake. We have abundance of lakes outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area that are in commuting distance to DFW. I want to be 15 minutes to the airport, or I want to be 15 minutes from downtown Dallas. So it really depends on the individual. You said it, but I've got to say it too. It depends on the individual. I want a lifestyle of, I don't have a family, I don't have children, and I want to be in that, area of the bars and the nightlife and all that brings to you. I want to be in the health center. I love basketball. So how far can I be from American Airlines Center to go watch the Mavericks play? Or I want season tickets to the Cowboys or the Stars. What do you want? We'll find it for you. That's the bottom line. Of course, in today's world, we communicate, we'll find it for you, but you better be ready to buy, because our inventory is lower than it's ever been in my 49-year career. I started in real estate 49 years ago, William. So I will tell you, I've never seen an inventory where it's 1.1 months supply.
Wow.
And that's what it was in the month of January. And so if you're coming, you better be ready to buy. You have not a pre-qualified letter, you have a pre-approval letter from a lender. You have your proof of funds that you can close on the house, and you are ready to do business when you walk in and you say, I like this house, I like this condo, I like this townhouse, I'm ready to buy it right now. Because odds are it will not be on the market in 72 hours.
Wow. So it's just like some of these other hot markets where multiple offers, you've got to come in fully ready or you can lose it like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if the more cash you have, the better your offer. That's the way it is as well. If you can pay cash for a house, ladies and gentlemen, you are a better driver in that seat than one that has to borrow money.
And what sort of response are you seeing from home builders in the area on a local level and some of the larger national home builders? Are they starting to develop more in the Dallas Fort Worth area in response to this shortage of supply?
Yes, but they can't keep up. They are definitely
Right.
building more, and they're building as much as they can. But remember, from the time someone closes on a piece of land to the time the first buyer moves into that property, it's a 2-year period. That's a rule of thumb. If you're going to build a house, or you're going to buy the land, put in the utilities, put in the streets, you sell the lots to a builder, the builder, starts building the houses before the buyer moves in, consumer moves into that property. It's a 2-year period of time. So they are building as quickly as they can. And of course, what the recession did, it took a lot of these trades out of the building business. And so from the end of the recession, 2010, 2011, somewhere in there, the number of workers went down considerably. And so as the demand increased, builders were not only having trouble finding the lots, but they were also having trouble finding the framers and the plumbers and the electricians and the roofers to build the houses. Now, to a great degree, that's come back, and they're building more, but it's not enough to eat up the demand. Our demand is still very, very high.
Now, what do you see as the biggest risk to that demand? Obviously, some of the stuff we spoke about those trends seem like they're going to continue in the sense of, Texas being a business-friendly state, more businesses moving there, people having the ability to work remotely and wanting a better quality of life. And then obviously, this is specific to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but the overall real estate market, you have low interest rates, which certainly help. What do you see as the biggest risk specifically in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to, demand wavering in any capacity?
Well, if we have snow and ice for another 3 months, I think that's really going to adversely affect our market. If we don't have electricity for the next 3 months, I think we might be having a little problem here. And I'm saying that as a joke today, but it's not a joke when you don't have electricity in your house. It's the real life. And it's just, in my whole life, I've never seen anything like this. And I'm, again, 5th generation Texan. So to your question, we don't see an end. And, I quit predicting back when interest rates went up to 17% in 1979 to 82. I said, who knows what's going to happen in the world. But when you add up the main driver of real estate at the end of the day is jobs. Jobs are what creates demand. If people don't have jobs, they can't buy a house. That's reality. We have jobs in DFW. Our unemployment, of course, when COVID hit, it went up, but it's back down to manageable levels. I don't remember what it is. I haven't looked recently, but it's back down. I know it is. I just can't remember the exact number. So we're very blessed with that volume of jobs and job creation here. And so you add that to, as you said, affordable housing. I say that it's affordable. It's going up every day. You add that to the interest rate, though. Oh my gosh. 2.5 for a 15-year loan and 3.0 for a 30-year loan or less. I talked to somebody that refied their house for 2.99 on a 30-year just the other day. That's unheard of historic interest rates. And for the Fed, this is hearsay. I didn't hear him say it directly, but I heard it through a professional national speaker recently. The head of the Fed came out and said he doesn't expect interest rates to go up significantly for 3 years. In my lifetime, I've never heard of the head of the Fed, Federal Reserve System, to predict that the interest rates won't go up for 3 years. Never. I mean, they hardly say it for a quarter, much less 3 years.
Right.
So if that trend continues, and who knows what will happen with the minimum, what is it, labor cost? I can't think of the minimum wage. If something happens there in the state of Texas, I don't know. We'll wait and see what happens. All those things add up to a great housing climate. Well, I probably said more than you wanted to know, but jobs, interest, affordable housing, even though it's going up every day, it's still out there, and opportunities for growth, all here.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And it's obviously not one specific thing, but all those things together that make it so appealing. And then I guess my question would be, at what point, or is there a point where so many people come because it's so great that it becomes unaffordable.
Well, I'm sure San Francisco ran into that many years ago. And, do you have a crystal ball you can ship my way? You can buy it on Amazon probably, William, and I'll give you my address. You can give me that crystal ball for my
I've
birthday
been
coming up or
I've been
something.
looking for one. If I
Yeah,
find
have you?
one,
Or you don't have one either. Okay. I
yeah.
don't know. Yes, certainly the affordability index certainly is a factor and will certainly continue to be a factor. But remember, a normal real estate market is 6 months supply. We are at 1.1 months.
Wow.
So we have a long way to go to get to a normal market. That will take many months. Don't ask me how many. I don't know. It'll take many months to go from a 1.1 month supply to a 6 month supply of housing. And I'm talking about real estate sales.
Right. Yeah. And I guess, and the other thing too that you have, and I'm from New York, so being in Manhattan and seeing how demand's affected that area. And I remember when I was coming out of college and Brooklyn became really popular, and then certain area becomes unaffordable, and then boom, they go to the next borough, and that gets gentrified, and then there's new development, and then that and sort of happens like that. And I guess the advantage you have in the Dallas Fort Worth area is there's no shortage of land, so there's plenty of space to continue building. And even though there is a shortage, they'll certainly add supply to that market.
So, William, we can build to the Rocky Mountains on the west, to the Atlantic Ocean on the east, to the Gulf of Mexico on the south, and to Canada on the north. So we've got a lot of land before DFW just can't build anymore. So yeah, we've got plenty of land, and of course, at the same time, we're going up, just like most urban centers have been doing the last few years. High rises. I live in a high rise in downtown Dallas, and a couple of years ago, my wife and I looked out and we counted the cranes around just looking out our terrace, and there were 11 cranes building high-rise apartments and/or condos outside of our window. And these are high-dollar, New York type housing in the uptown and downtown and Deep Ellum area. And so we're going up and we're going out. That'll continue.
Yep. Like I said, lucky that you have the space to do that. Well, listen, Jim, I appreciate you taking the time today. This has been a really fun chat. Glad you were able to find an internet connection and a warm bed, as I know that's in short supply down there.
I'm sure you're picking up some background noise again. These are our neighbors and their kids and all that stuff. But it's what we're at least my wife and I are warm and we have electricity. It's a great day. We're blessed.
Absolutely. And I think
a lot of our company is not that way today. I will assure you. We had a meeting just a little while ago, and it's pretty dismal out there for a lot of people in the Texas state of Texas from a weather standpoint. So,
no,
my blessings to all of them.
Absolutely. Our thoughts to all of them. Hopefully things get back to normal as quickly as possible. And, we'd like to have you back on again and check on the progress, see how everything's going in Dallas Fort Worth, and look forward to it.
Good. I would too. Thank you very much. Appreciate your day today.
Thanks a lot, Jim. Have a good one. And for everybody else tuned in, my colleague Veli will now jump on and take you through a demo on our updates to the platform. So thanks, Jim. I'm signing off, and we'll talk soon.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Willie, for the great conversation. I really hope all of our users, all of our subscribers,